everyone. What we're going to be learning about today is how to use more advanced one-point perspective. Now, normally when I'd have you in the classroom, I would use an entire sheet of paper, a 12 by 14 sheet of paper to do this. But since most of you are virtual or at home, I'm going to use a smaller sheet of paper. This one is done on a blue sheet of paper. This one is done on white. Okay, so you can use either one. Both of these drawings are colored in with crayon, except for the white here is paint. So if you have paint, you could absolutely do it that way. But like I said, today we're just going to work on a smaller sheet of paper. Again, if all you have to work with is lined paper, you can use that. And if all you have to work with is printer paper, by all means use that. Use what you have. Now, some of you guys came to school in the beginning of the year, and a lot of you picked these up. Me and Ms. Chavone handed out over 500 of these art packets, and I'm still handing them out now. So if you need one, by all means, come to the school and pick one up. Okay, there's pencils, crayons, glue stick, and an eraser in there, and then there are a couple of sheets of colored construction paper. So if you need one of those, by all means, come grab one. Now, to start this project, you should have, if you don't have a ruler, I'm going to show you a couple things you can do to manage around that, okay? So you can take a piece of your lined paper, which is much cheaper than art paper, and you could use that as a guide, okay? So you could fold that in half and kind of use that to mark off halfway on your paper, although it's not quite halfway, but it's close. And same thing, if you have a piece of printer paper, you can do the same thing. But basically what we want to do is we want to make a horizon line for this project to start it. Now the horizon line is where your eye perceives the sky to end and the earth to begin. Okay, so you're going to need for this project to start a couple of pencils. Hopefully you have a separate eraser. If you haven't gotten one from me at school and you are in school, just take it out of the art box. I have tons of erasers. You are more than welcome to take this out of the art box at school. If you don't have a ruler, again, I've said before, use a piece of junk mail. That's what I'm going to be using for this whole project. I do have a ruler available to me, but I just want to show you guys that you can use junk mail. You can use a piece of cardboard if you have it. Use what you have, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to draw my horizon line, and that's the line that's going to go straight across the paper where the sky ends and the earth begins, okay? So let's get started. So I already made my guideline with my lined paper, so I'm going to do that again on this side, measuring like the same spot. Now I'm going to draw my horizon line going all the way across my paper. Looks like I'm going to have to make a third one. So I'm going to put this in the middle, mark off where my paper ends. So it should be fairly straight. If it's not perfectly straight, don't worry about it. And I'm going to draw my horizon line all the way across my paper, not just from dot to dot. You have to make sure it goes all the way across the paper. Actually, I'm a little crooked, but that's not a big deal. Okay. So there's my horizon line. I'm going downhill a little bit, but it doesn't, well, you know what? Maybe I'll straighten it out a little bit more. Now, if you've ever done one-point perspective, okay, you all know that there is one point where all the lines converge or seem to disappear into. Now, see, that's where the eraser comes in handy if you have an eraser. There are some lines that are going to get erased, so most of them are going to be guidelines, so you don't want to draw these dark. Now, if you look at this one, I did it in Sharpie because it's easier to see in the classroom. When I was working on the board and I had the paper up on the board, the students could see the lines better when I use Sharpie. But today, I'm just using pencil, and hopefully you guys can see it when I'm working on it. And you're going to draw these lines lightly because this does eventually get erased. You're just going to keep these lines here, okay? So now we have our horizon line. Now we need to make the vanishing point, okay? This is the point at which all of our lines are going to disappear into. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a line that goes above the horizon line and one that goes slightly below the horizon line. So if you look at my larger paper, you can see the horizon line goes straight across here, and one line goes slightly below it and one goes above it. So we need to make the top of the bridge here. This is the roof. We're not making the roof quite yet. So we're going to work on this line right here, the top of the bridge and the bottom of the bridge to get us started. Okay, so now I have my vanishing point. I'm going to draw my line slightly below my horizon line. Remember, draw lightly, guys. I'm going to draw dark so that you can see what I'm doing, but I really want you to draw this line light. Okay, you can see my line's fairly dark. So that's going to be the bottom of my bridge. And then I'm going to draw the top of my bridge. So there's the top and the bottom. So it's almost like that little depot you drew in the Elements of Art project. Now we're going to draw the back of the bridge because the bridge can't continue on and on and on forever. So we're going to draw a back to the bridge. Make sure you draw it straight. Okay, it should be parallel with the back of your paper. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so this line should be parallel with your paper. Also, the front of the bridge. You're going to do the same thing. I'm going to get my junk mail. And I'm going to draw my line straight down. So there's the back of my bridge and the front of my bridge. Now on the front of this, I'm going to draw a small square. A rectangle. And that's where my entryway will be for my bridge. Okay? So you want to make these lines parallel. This line here and this line here will be parallel with the top of your paper and the bottom of your paper. So we're going to draw these lines straight across like that. I apologize for my dog. He's making a lot of noise in the background. Okay, so there we have our square at the end, the back of our bridge, the top of the bridge, the bottom of the bridge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw what's called the pitch of the roof. You don't have to measure this. You can just lightly sketch a line like that. And then you're going to connect it to both corners to make a triangle. Just like that. Okay, you can sketch this whole thing in. Now you're going to take your ruler or whatever you have to measure with or draw a straight line with. I've even made a ruler out of Legos. Use what you have. I'm going to draw a line, dark so you can see it, back to my vanishing point. So if you look at this, everything that's on my left side of my bridge converges or seems to disappear into my vanishing point over here. Now, the next thing I want to do is this. I have my angle of my roof here. Well, I want to make that same angle back here. Now, it doesn't have to be exact or perfect, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my piece of junk mail on this angled part of my roof, and I'm going to slide it back here, and I'm going to draw that part of my bridge. Okay, so it's pretty close. It's not exact, but it's close enough. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to erase my horizon line out of the front part of the bridge. Now I'm going to leave this line, this part of my horizon line here, because I'm going to use that for the bottom of my windows. Okay, so there's no need to erase that. We're just going to keep that. And then I'm going to erase it, this line down here. I don't really need it anymore. And then these two lines up here. I want to keep my horizon line though, because we don't want our bridge to look like it's floating in outer space. Also, you can erase the pitch line. For the doorway, I would use ruler, whatever you have, and you're going to look at the width. Make sure that you can see this line so that you can make this the same width when you draw the doorway. So I'm gonna start here, and I have, you know, that same width all the way down. And now I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. This looks about the same width to me. So I'm gonna draw my other line up. If it doesn't look right, you can just always erase it and, you know, tweak it a little bit. Now I really want my width to be the same all the way around. So I'm gonna lightly draw this next line because I do wanna make these two angled parts right here. So I'm gonna lightly draw my line across the top here, like that. So then I can always erase. And then I'm gonna connect, not like that. And then lightly kind of sketch a line there. And then I can connect that like that. Just go in and erase what you don't need anymore. And you can darken that line up. Now, we need the other line for the top of our windows. Now, we don't want our windows to go to the end of the bridge. Okay, so I'm gonna make a line there, and I'm gonna make a wood plank there. And I'm gonna make the top of my window. So this is gonna be the bottom, and this is gonna be the top. Now, if you were in class with me and you were doing the elements of art, we talked about how things get closer together and smaller as they go back into the picture plane. And that's exactly what's gonna happen. So this is gonna be the width of my one wood plank. So I'm gonna draw that in all the way up. Now that line you can draw dark because you're gonna keep that. So now I'm gonna go in and erase. It's a little on the crooked side, but that's okay. Wood bridges aren't perfect, especially old ones. So if it's a little bit crooked, don't worry about it. So what I wanna do next is I wanna divide this rectangle up into smaller areas. I'm not measuring, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and I'm trying to make it look a little bit wider as it gets closer to me. Okay, so you can see these are smaller and these are much larger. Now, to make the X's in the windows, what I did was I just draw an X lightly with my pencil in each of the boxes. Like that. So if you can see those, I apologize for the shadow. Okay, so I made an X in each window. And then what I want to do is I want to go on either side and draw in a darker line like that. And I'm going to choose this one to be my top board. So it's going to look like it's going over top. So I'm going to do all of these first. Okay, the one that's going at this angle. I'm going to do all of these first. And I'm going to go outside of the lines that I lightly sketched. So it looks like a plank of wood going across the window. So if you can kind of see what I did there, you can see the line that's going in between, and then I just drew a darker line on either side of that. And you can always go back in and erase that middle line if you want to. If not, you're gonna color over it anyway if you draw it light enough. So it's really not that big a deal. but I just want to get rid of it so it doesn't confuse me. Okay, now this line, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not going to go through the X. I'm going to draw one on one side and one on the other. So it actually looks like it's three-dimensional, okay? So I draw it and I hit the board, I stop, and then I draw the X on the other side. Okay, so now you can see all of my X's. I'm gonna go back and erase this. Now we're gonna be doing this video in sections. Today we're just gonna be drawing this part of our bridge, and we're gonna draw the planks of wood. Again, they're supposed to get smaller and closer together as they get further back. So I'm gonna start at my front and draw my lines back. Try to make sure that they're parallel. We'll be drawing in the landscape tomorrow. Like I said, I'm gonna do the video in sections because there's no way you can get this entire project done in like the 30 minutes that were allotted. So we are gonna do this in sections. This is probably as far as we're gonna get today, is just drawing the actual bridge. Let's start making these slightly closer together. I'm also gonna make a separate video on how to draw different types of trees. So I'll be drawing like oak trees and pine trees. So that's going to be a completely separate tutorial, and that's going to be something you're going to watch on your own to finish your project, because you are going to add your own background. Okay, you could either do a spring, summer, fall, winter, whatever kind of background you want to add to this project is what makes it yours. How you complete it with your own individual drawing and designs for this is what makes it yours. So I showed you one that looked like summer or spring. It had like flowers in it. And then I also showed you a winter version of this project. And you can actually add anything you want to into the background. Okay, so notice how my planks are getting closer together as they go back and they're drawing, and they're smaller. Okay, so that one's gonna go straight up. All right, so then I can always like fix the back end of my bridge. Okay, so we're also going to put some planks up here as well, but I just wanted to show you real quick what I mean. Okay, so here are some oak trees that have lost all their leaves because this is a winter scene, and it kind of looks icy, but it is moving water, so it wouldn't freeze necessarily. And then this is like a spring type version of the project with flowers kind of growing in the background, and the trees are getting their leaves. This one is really, really springy. It's not completed. It's one that's still a work in progress, but here you can see I have little ducks swimming in the river. There's a hidden Easter egg. I have a rabbit with an Easter egg. So you can actually pretty much add anything you want to the background to make it yours. So whatever you want to do to it, that's up to you. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to make some lines. I'm going to try to make these the same width. But if they're not, you know, I'll start on this part so I can make sure that they're the same width. So I want to make my lines parallel with that line there. So I'm just going to draw my line straight across like that. Okay. Like that. So these look like they're the same width planks because they're all in the same vicinity as you like are looking at. It's right, like everything's right there. So all the planks should be the same width. Unlike these ones that are going back into space that need to be, you know, thinner as they go back. So now I'm gonna draw this plank. It's a little crooked, but that's okay. And then I'm gonna draw this one in the same place because we want it to be even. So I'll make this parallel with this side of my opening, like that. And then you can just kind of sketch these ones in if you want. I'll just divide that up too. Maybe I'll divide it a little bit more. Move this one over. So this is as far as we're gonna get today. And like I said, we'll draw in the landscape tomorrow, and then we'll discuss, you know, backgrounds and trees. And like I said, I'm gonna make a completely separate video for you guys to do the different types of trees. All right, guys, have fun with it. I think it's a cool project. And like I said, it's more in-depth perspective than what you've learned previously. All right, bye guys.